Well, it has been a couple of weeks or months that the peace deal with the US and the Taliban have been signed, and the following which the Afghan-owned and Afghan-led process, the inter-Afghan dialogue, should have been started, but it has been a long time that due to several issues, the talks have not yet started. Well, keeping all these issues in mind and raising violence from the Taliban side, that every day and every week dozens of Afghan soldiers are killed. And we had a very tragic incident a few days back in Samangan, which was one of the worst. Keeping all these in mind, do you think Afghans will reach to a real peace?
Well, we very much hope so. I mean, you had mentioned the US-Taliban peace deal. This has been endorsed by NATO and NATO defense ministers and by UN, by a number of other bodies. So the international community is certainly here to support. The Afghans getting to a table and sorting out their differences and arriving to an agreement which will allow this country to get what 100% of its population wants, which is peace. Now, there are still some obstacles to peace. One of these is the dynamics which take there. Prisoner release on both sides, because we must always remember that there is a Afghan government commitment which they are living up to, and the Taliban commitment also to get to a number of 1,000. So we're inching forward to that. I would say that now the main obstacle to peace now is the unacceptable level of violence on the part of the Taliban. This has been mentioned by everybody who takes an interest in Afghanistan and beyond. Taliban levels of violence are absolutely unacceptable. They are not creating the conditions for getting to the peace table. Taliban have to demonstrate that they're serious about peace. I mean, fighting and talking is not an option. Also because you have a lot of casualties. The ANSDF, which are showing their worth, they are getting better and better by the day, and they're already very, very good. They are the ones in the end that have driven the Taliban to the negotiating table, as they have demonstrated that there is no possibility for the Taliban to win this war. And but the violence has to go down. It's a confidence-building measure, which has to be not a condition, because there are no conditions to get to the peace, but as creating a situation which will make us look to the Taliban and make the Afghan government look to the Taliban as more trustworthy partners. And then there is the part of the tragic casualties on both sides, both on the Taliban side, on the ANSDF side, and the civilians who are in it. But as I say, when there are levels of violence, unfortunately, civilians die. And that is not acceptable.
Would the international community, especially NATO, support the ANSDF both financially and politically after the peace deal?
Certainly, yes, that is certainly our intention. After the peace deal, we will have to negotiate whatever we do with the new Afghan government, which comes out of the peace deal. So these are not unilateral decisions on the side of NATO. This will be the Afghan government, which will ask us for what they need, and we will comply to the measure of our capacities. We are committed. We are funded until 2024, but committed well beyond that period, as long as it takes, as long as the Afghan government believes that we are necessary. The funds are there, and the political commitment is there. It has been reinstated. It has been restated rather than reinstated. Restated by the North Atlantic Council in declaration that came out last week. And then, of course, and there's the rest also of the funding. The international community the donor community, will look at Afghanistan post-IAN And I imagine that if it likes what it sees, we will continue to fund and will continue to assist in Afghan development. If it doesn't like what it sees, then I don't think that donors will put their money into a country which is not does not live up to the expectations. So we're looking at the outcome of this peace deal, and launching a clear message also on the Taliban side that it has to be an Afghanistan in which the gains that the Afghan society made under the NATO security umbrella, but the Afghan society made, it wasn't imposed upon. We didn't impose our values, and we respect the Afghan values to the core. But Afghan society itself has made so much progress. It has so much to be proud of on human rights, on women's rights, on ethnic rights, on education, on health, on media freedom, and a number of other issues, of which really, as I say, the Afghan society can be proud, which we're looking to maintain. But this will be, of course, an inter-Afghan dialogue in which we hope that these issues will be front and center. So, I mean, that is what the donors will be looking at.
Okay.
As for ourselves, we're committed to ANSDF, no doubt.
Okay, what are NATO's red lines for the inter-Afghan dialogue?
We have no red lines. This is not our dialogue. This is inter-Afghan negotiations.
Exactly.
There are no.
Exactly, but
but
there are certain achievements and values that the NATO as a strategic partner to Afghanistan have achieved and made during the last couple of years. Don't you think that NATO, there are certain values that NATO as a strategic partner to Afghanistan would emphasize on them?
No, we are very interested. Don't get me wrong. We are very interested that the ANDSF and the police, well, they're part of the ANDSF, of course, keep this very high standard they've achieved. Professional levels, leadership levels, or they're sorting out their logistics. I mean, we have helped along the way. We're proud to have helped. But we are also proud of our partners. The results that ANDSF have achieved are spectacular. They are an excellent army. They are an excellent police. They're an excellent Air Force. They're an excellent commando division. So we're very proud of the progress that ANDSF has made, and we believe that it will be, as it is in all countries, armed forces are a cornerstone of unity and of stability, and we want to see those preserved. And we very much hope that that they will be preserved by the IAN. After which you were talking about, and we were talking about the same thing, the gains which Afghan society has made. That will be up to the Afghan government to defend and to preserve. And I very much hope that the Taliban will understand that since they were in power, Afghan society has moved on, and has moved on quickly. And there's no turning back. And Afghans don't want that. I talk to a lot of people every day. You talk to even more people than I do. And you know that what I'm saying is true, that the Afghans do not want to go back 19 years. They want their freedom preserved, they want their human rights preserved, they want their economic rights preserved, the rights to education, a better medical system, and security and stability. And the security and stability will be delivered by the army, the armed forces, and the police.
How would you describe Taliban now and after a peace deal is made?
Well, Taliban now are not very helpful, in getting there, seem to be quite inflexible. I mean, I understand. I just hope this is a negotiating tactic, and which is understandable. We understand where they come from. I can't make predictions. I just hope that they get the message from the Afghan people, because they are on the ground, that the Afghan people will not forgive or forget anybody who stands in the way of a acceptable peace, and which is a way to a society which is in the aspirations, a stable society, which is in the aspirations of the Afghan people. I just hope that the Taliban are getting this message.
You may know better that Pakistan has been a major supporter to the Taliban, and the Taliban was brought to the negotiating table by Pakistan. In your opinion, how much does Pakistan benefit from the Afghan peace process?
I mean, not only Pakistan, Pakistan has much to benefit from the Afghan peace process, as the rest of the regional states. I mean, Pakistan has been recognized, time and again periodically, actually, by the American negotiators that they have played a helpful role. General Bajwa's visit here also a couple of weeks ago was also well taken, and the messages were comforting. I mean, the whole of the region, especially South Asia, stands to gain from a stable Afghanistan. You just think of Afghanistan as a hub for infrastructural projects which are regional. There are quite a few, I'm not talking, hot air. We're talking TAPI, we're talking, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline. We're talking Gaza 1000, which is Central Asia, South Asia, electric lines. We're talking TAP, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, also a pipeline. This is actually, state Afghanistan, which can be a hub for energy infrastructures and for roads and for regional connectivity, is in the vital interest of a region which is looking at catching up with the development of the rest of Southeast Asia. So I would say that all partners, none excluded, have a strong interest in getting a stable Afghanistan.
The last question, is there any guarantee at international level that Afghanistan will not turn back to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and terrorism hub after the Taliban and Afghan people reach to a peace agreement? Now,
international terrorism is for us a major concern. After all, when NATO came to Afghanistan, it came after 9/11 to avoid another 9/11 elsewhere in the world or in the US. So the fight against terrorism is at the core of our business, which is why we have helped build up an efficient ANDSF, which is the first instrument of fighting terrorist groups in Afghanistan. I also note that there are specific provisions in the US-Taliban agreement and in the US agreement with the Afghan government, which specify that Afghanistan must never again become a platform for international terrorism and for national terrorism, because we know that the ones who have really borne the brunt of violence in this country and of terrorism in this country are the Afghans themselves, first of all. So we are certainly not going to turn back on this issue. This is an issue which is at the forefront of our attention. We, as I say, ANDSF, together with developed society, are two major stabilizers and defense against international terrorism, ISIS-K, as you say, Al-Qaeda itself. But as I say, there are provisions in the agreement which we will be looking closely at, and we will be looking closely at their implementation. As you know, as NATO says, and it's all its declarations and documents, NATO's drawdown is in support of the peace process, but it is conditions-based. I would say that the main condition is the fight against terrorism. So if that doesn't go the right way, then there will be consequences.